Welcome back to the channel BBC Coin. Today we are going to explore the history, design, rarity, and current collector value of this fascinating coin. Stay with us until the end because you might already have one of these coins in your own pocket or coin jar. Let's begin with the basics. The 1974 1-cent coin belongs to the famous Lincoln Memorial Penny series, one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. The front of the coin features the portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, a design originally created by Victor David Brenner and first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. On the reverse side of the coin you will see the iconic Lincoln Memorial Building, designed by Frank Gasparo. This design was used from 1959 until 2008 and became one of the most recognizable coin designs in the United States. Now here is where things become interesting. Many collectors pay special attention to coins that do not have a mint mark. If you look closely at most modern coins, you will notice a small letter underneath the date. This letter represents the mint facility where the coin was produced. For example, D stands for Denver and S stands for San Francisco. But the 1974 penny with no mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which historically did not always include a mint mark on its coins. This means millions of pennies were produced without a mint mark during that time. At first glance, that might make the coin seem common. After all, billions of pennies were produced in 1974. In fact, more than 8 billion Lincoln cents were minted that year, making it one of the largest coin productions in United States history. But here is the surprising truth. While most 1974 pennies are only worth a few cents, certain rare examples in exceptional condition or with minting errors can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars in the collector's market. So what makes one of these coins valuable? The first factor is condition. Coin collectors grade coins on a scale that measures how well preserved they are. Coins that have never circulated and still maintain their original bright copper color are known as uncirculated coins. These coins are much rarer because most pennies quickly enter circulation and become scratched, worn, or faded over time. A perfectly preserved 1974 penny in high mint state condition can attract serious attention from collectors. Some rare high-grade coins have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on demand and grading certification. But condition is only one part of the story. Another reason the 1974 no mint mark penny can become valuable is because of minting errors. Minting errors occur during the coin production process at the United States Mint. These errors can include doubled letters, off-center strikes, or unusual metal variations. One of the most famous examples is the 1974 doubled die penny. On this coin, the lettering and design appear slightly doubled due to a mistake during the die creation process. Collectors actively search for this variety because it is much rarer than normal coins. Depending on the clarity of the doubling and the condition of the coin, these error coins can sell anywhere from $75 to several $100s. Another fascinating part of the 1974 penny story involves an experimental coin that was never meant for circulation. During the early 1970s, the price of copper began rising dramatically. Because pennies were made from 95% copper, the cost of producing the coin was becoming too expensive. To solve this problem, the United States Mint experimented with creating pennies made from aluminum instead of copper. These experimental aluminum pennies were produced in limited quantities and distributed to members of Congress for evaluation. However, the project was eventually canceled and almost all of the aluminum coins were recalled. Today, these aluminum pennies are considered some of the most mysterious coins in American history, and surviving examples could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars if legally owned. But let's return to the regular copper penny that most collectors are searching for. The 1974 copper penny weighs about 3.11 grams, has a diameter of about 19 millimeters, and contains mostly copper with small amounts of zinc and tin. Because it was produced before 1982, the coin contains significantly more copper than modern pennies, which are mostly zinc with a thin copper coating. This means even ordinary 1974 pennies have a small metal value due to their copper content. However, the real excitement for collectors comes from rare varieties, errors, and high-grade specimens. In recent years, Online auctions and coin marketplaces have shown that certain examples of the 1974 penny without a mint mark can attract bids starting around $1,200, especially if the coin has exceptional preservation or a notable mint error. These prices are not guaranteed for every coin, but they demonstrate the incredible potential hidden in what many people believe is just pocket change. So, how can you check if your coin might be valuable? First, examine the coin carefully under good lighting. Look closely at the date, the word Liberty, and the phrase "I in God we trust." If you notice any unusual doubling or distortion in the letters, your coin might be a doubled die variety. Next, check the coin's condition. Does the coin still have a bright reddish copper color? Are the details on Lincoln's face sharp and clear? If so, your coin could be in a higher collectible grade. You can also weigh the coin using a small digital scale. A normal 1974 copper penny should weigh around 3.11 grams. If the weight is significantly different, it could indicate an unusual metal composition or mint error. Finally, if you believe your coin may be rare, the best step is to have it evaluated by a professional coin grading service. Certified coins often sell for much higher prices because collectors trust the official grading and authentication. And this brings us to the most exciting question. Today we're diving into a fascinating coin that many people have seen in their pocket change but never realized could be valuable. This is the 1975 United States 1-cent coin with no mint mark. At first glance it looks like an ordinary penny, but collectors know that certain examples of this coin can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on condition and rarity. If you have a jar of old coins at home, you might want to watch this video carefully, because the coin we're talking about today could be hiding right in your collection. Let's start with the history behind the 1975 1-cent coin. The coin belongs to the famous Lincoln Cent series, one of the longest running coin designs in American history. The Lincoln penny was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. The design on the front of the coin shows the portrait of Abraham Lincoln and was created by the sculptor Victor David Brenner. By 1975, the penny had already been in circulation for more than 60 years, and the reverse side of the coin displayed the Lincoln Memorial Building in Washington, D.C. This reverse design was created by Frank Gasparo and was used from 1959 until 2008. The 1975 penny is also interesting because it was still made with a high copper content. These coins were produced with 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving them that classic reddish-brown color that collectors love. Later pennies after 1982 changed composition and contain mostly zinc with only a thin copper coating. Now let's talk about something very important for collectors: the mint mark. In the United States, coins are produced at different mints such as Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Most coins have a small letter on them called a mint mark, which tells you where the coin was produced. But in 1975 something interesting happens. The Philadelphia Mint did not place a mint mark on pennies at that time. So if you look at your 1975 penny and you do not see a letter under the date, that means the coin was made at the Philadelphia Mint. Because of this, millions and millions of 1975 pennies exist with no mint mark. In fact, more than 5 billion of them were produced. So you might be wondering right now, if so many were made, how could one be worth serious money? The answer lies in condition and rarity. Most 1975 pennies that circulated in everyday use are only worth their face value or just a few cents. But when a coin survives in extremely high-grade condition, collectors are willing to pay big money to own it. For example, a perfectly preserved 1975 Lincoln penny graded at the very highest mint state levels can sell for thousands of dollars at auction. Some superb examples have reached prices around $9,000 depending on certification and collector demand. This is why coin collectors always emphasize the importance of condition. A coin that has never been used in circulation will have sharp details, bright color, and no scratches or wear. These coins are described as mint state or uncirculated. The better the preservation, the higher the grade and the higher the potential value. Another factor that can make a 1975 penny valuable is mint errors. Mint errors happen when something unusual occurs during the manufacturing process. Even though the U.S. Mint has strict quality control, mistakes occasionally slip through and those coins become highly collectible. One example is a doubled die error. This happens when the design of the coin is accidentally stamped twice slightly offset, creating a visible doubling effect on the letters or numbers. On some 1975 pennies you might see doubling in the word Liberty, or on the date. Coins with this type of error can sell for anywhere from $50 to several $100 depending on the strength of the doubling and the condition of the coin. Another error collectors look for is an off-center strike. Normally the design should be perfectly centered on the coin. But sometimes the blank coin shifts during the striking process, and the design ends up partially missing on one side. If a 1975 penny is struck 20%, 30%, or even 50% off-center, collectors may pay from tens to hundreds of dollars for it. There are also clipped planchet errors where a piece of the coin's edge is missing because the metal blank was improperly cut before striking. These unusual shapes make the coin stand out immediately, and they can bring premium prices among collectors. Another small but interesting error is called the BI error. This happens when a tiny die crack forms between the letters B and E in the word Liberty. The crack creates the appearance of an extra letter I, making the word look like BI instead of B. While not extremely rare, collectors still enjoy finding this type of variety, and it can increase the coin's value. Today we are exploring the fascinating story behind the 1976 United States Liberty 1-cent coin with no mint mark. This small piece of copper might look ordinary, but collectors around the world are searching for rare examples of it. If you have one, you might be holding a hidden treasure without even realizing it. Before we talk about value, let's travel back in time to the year 1976. The United States was celebrating its 200th anniversary. This was the famous bicentennial year when the country marked 200 years since independence in 1776. Special coins were released for the quarter, half dollar, and dollar with unique designs to celebrate the occasion. However, the 1-cent coin did not receive a special bicentennial design. Instead, it continued with the classic Lincoln Memorial design that Americans had been using for years. Even though the design remained the same, the 1976 penny still became an important collectible for coin enthusiasts. The front of the coin features the portrait of Abraham Lincoln. This design was created by Victor David Brenner and first appeared on the penny in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Above Lincoln's head you will see the famous phrase "In God We Trust." To the left you will see the word Liberty. And below the portrait you will find the year 1976. On the back of the coin is the Lincoln Memorial Building in Washington, D.C. If you look closely at the center of the memorial, you can actually see the tiny statue of Abraham Lincoln sitting inside. This detailed design was created by Frank Gasparo and was used on pennies from 1959 until 2008. The coin itself is made mostly of copper. In fact, the 1976 penny contains 95% copper and 5% zinc, which gives it its classic reddish color and weight. It measures about 19 millimeters across and weighs a little more than 3 grams. Now let's talk about the most interesting part of this coin: the mint mark. Many United States coins have a small letter under the date that shows where they were produced. For example, the letter D means the coin was minted in Denver, and the letter S means it was produced in San Francisco. But the coin we are focusing on today has something special. It has no mint mark at all. A 1976 penny without a mint mark was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. At that time, Philadelphia coins often did not carry a mint letter. So when collectors see a 1976 penny with no mint mark, they know it came from that historic mint facility. Billions of pennies were produced that year. In fact, more than 4.6 billion of these coins were minted in Philadelphia alone. That might sound like a lot, and it is. But here is where things become interesting for collectors. Not all coins are equal. Even though billions were produced, only a very small number remain in perfect condition today. Coins that have never circulated and still show their bright red copper color can be extremely valuable to collectors. Professional grading companies examine coins carefully and assign them a grade based on condition. A coin graded in very high mint state condition can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. In some cases, rare examples of the 1976 no-mint mark penny have been listed on collector markets with prices starting around $1,200 for exceptional specimens. So, what makes one of these coins valuable? First is condition. If the coin still has its original bright red color with no scratches, stains, or wear, it becomes much more attractive to collectors. Coins that have circulated in pockets for years usually turn brown and lose their shine. Second is rarity and high grade. While billions were made, very few survived in perfect mint condition. Collectors compete to own the finest examples available. Third is minting errors. Some 1976 pennies were struck with unusual errors during the minting process. These can include double lettering, off-center designs, clipped edges, or die cracks. Error coins can sometimes sell for hundreds of dollars or more depending on how dramatic the mistake is. Imagine finding one of those rare error coins in an old jar of pennies. It has happened before. Many coin collectors started their journey by simply searching through pocket change. Sometimes the rarest finds are hiding in plain sight. Another reason collectors love the 1976 penny is its connection to American history. The year represents the bicentennial celebration, a moment when the entire nation looked back on 200 years of independence and progress. Even though the penny itself did not receive a special bicentennial design, it was still part of the coins circulating during that historic celebration. Today, collectors often search for coins from important historical years. And 1976 is definitely one of them. Now you might be wondering how to check if your coin is valuable. First, look at the date. Today we are talking about one of those fascinating coins that collectors love to search for. The 1979 Liberty 1-cent United States coin with no mint mark. At first glance it looks like an ordinary penny, something you might find in your pocket change. But for collectors and treasure hunters, this small copper coin can hold a much bigger story and sometimes even an incredible value. Before we talk about the exciting market value that can start from $1,200 for rare examples, let's first understand what makes the 1979 1-cent coin so special. The 1979 penny belongs to the famous Lincoln Memorial series of United States coins. This series began in 1959 and continued until 2008. On the front side of the coin you can see the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. Above his head you will see the motto "In God We Trust." On the left side appears the word Liberty, and on the right side the year 1979. This simple but powerful design has become one of the most recognizable coin designs in American history. The reverse side of the coin features the Lincoln Memorial Building located in Washington, D.C. Inside the memorial, if you look carefully with a magnifying glass, you can even see a tiny image of Abraham Lincoln sitting inside the monument. Above the memorial you will see the words United States of America, and below it the denomination 1 cent. Now let's talk about something very important that confuses many people. The mint mark. On many coins you will see a small letter below the date. That letter tells you where the coin was produced. For example, the letter D means the coin was minted in Denver, while the letter S means it was minted in San Francisco. But when a coin has no mint mark at all, that usually means it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. The 1979 penny with no mint mark was struck in Philadelphia, which is the oldest mint facility in the United States. Billions of these coins were produced during that year, making them very common in circulation at the time. However, just because a coin is common does not mean it cannot become valuable. In the world of coin collecting, value depends on several factors such as condition, rarity, mint errors, and collector demand. One interesting fact about the 1979 penny is that it was still made mostly of copper. The coin contains about 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. This copper composition gives the coin its classic reddish color and also makes it slightly heavier than modern pennies. In fact, copper pennies like the 1979 version have a melt value higher than their face value because of the metal content. But the real excitement begins when we look at high-grade coins and rare varieties. Most circulated 1979 pennies that have been used in everyday transactions are only worth a few cents today. Many of them sell for around 2 or 3 cents because of their copper content. However, collectors are always searching for coins in perfect or near-perfect condition. When a coin is preserved without scratches, discoloration, or wear, it can receive a very high grade from professional grading services. These high-grade coins are called mint state coins. A 1979 penny that receives a grade like MS-67 or MS-68 can become extremely valuable. In fact, some of the highest graded examples have sold at auctions for thousands of dollars. Today we are diving deep into the story of this famous coin, how to identify it, why collectors search for it, and why certain rare versions can sell for incredible prices. The coin we are talking about today is the 1984 Lincoln Memorial 1-cent coin. This penny is part of the long-running Lincoln cent series, first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln. On the front of the coin you see the portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, one of the most recognized designs in American coin history. The word Liberty appears on the left side of Lincoln's portrait, and the year 1984 appears on the right. On the reverse side you see the Lincoln Memorial Building in Washington, D.C. along with the words United States of America and 1 cent. Now here is something very important. Many collectors get excited when they see a 1984 penny that has no mint mark. But what does that really mean? In the United States, coins are produced at several different mint facilities. These include the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint. Most coins have a small letter under the year that shows where they were made. For example, AD means Denver and an S means San Francisco. But if there is no mint mark on the coin, it usually means the coin was produced in Philadelphia. In 1984, the Philadelphia Mint produced more than 8 billion pennies, which means the coin itself is actually very common. So if billions were made, how can a simple 1984 penny be worth more than $1,000? The answer is condition and rare minting errors. Most normal 1984 pennies found in circulation are only worth their face value of 1 cent. Even uncirculated examples might sell for only a few dollars depending on their condition. But some rare varieties and extremely high-grade coins have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. One of the most famous and valuable versions is called the 1984 double die obverse penny. Collectors often refer to this variety as the double ear penny. If you look closely at Lincoln's ear on this rare coin, you can see what appears to be a second earlobe underneath the first one. This doubling occurred during the minting process when the coin die received a slight misalignment while being created. This small detail might seem insignificant, but to coin collectors it is extremely important. The double ear error is one of the most well-known modern penny errors ever discovered. Even a circulated example of this error can sell for $50 to several $100 depending on condition. But high-grade coins in mint state condition have sold for thousands of dollars at auctions. Some rare specimens have reached prices above $3,000, especially when they are professionally graded and preserved with their original red color. So if you are holding a 1984 penny right now, how can you check if it might be valuable? First, look at the date. It must clearly say 1984. Second, check the area under the date. If there is no mint mark, that means it was produced in Philadelphia, which is the variety where the famous double ear error was discovered. Today we are talking about one of those fascinating coins, the 1987 Liberty 1 cent United States coin with no mint mark. At first glance it looks like an ordinary penny. Millions of Americans used it for everyday purchases. It passed through cash registers, piggy banks, and vending machines for decades. Yet some versions of this coin have captured the attention of coin collectors and investors alike. So what makes the 1987 Liberty 1 cent coin so interesting? Why are collectors searching for it? And how could its value start around $1,200 or even more in certain situations? Let's explore the story behind this famous penny. First, we need to understand the design of the coin. The 1987 1 cent coin belongs to the famous Lincoln cent series. On the front of the coin you will see the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. This design was created by sculptor Victor David Brenner and has appeared on American pennies since 1909. Above Lincoln's head you will see the national motto, "In God We Trust." On the left side you will see the word Liberty, and on the right side of the portrait you will see the date, 1987. Now here is where things become interesting. Normally, many American coins include a small mint mark under the date. This mint mark tells us where the coin was produced. The most common mint marks are D for Denver and S for San Francisco. However, some coins from the Philadelphia Mint were produced without any mint mark at all. When you see a 1987 penny without a mint mark under the date, that usually means the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. In 1987, the United States Mint produced billions of Lincoln cents. In fact, more than 9 billion pennies were minted that year between Philadelphia and Denver. Because of this huge production, most 1987 pennies are very common. Many of them are only worth their face value of 1 cent when found in circulation. But here is the twist that makes collectors excited. Not all coins are equal. In the world of coin collecting, the condition of a coin can dramatically change its value. A coin that looks worn and scratched may be worth almost nothing, but a coin preserved in nearly perfect condition can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. This is especially true for the 1987 Lincoln cent coin. Grading companies use a scale from 1 to 70 to measure the quality of a coin. Coins graded in the mint state range, especially grades like MS-68 or MS-69, are considered extremely rare because they show almost no flaws. For the 1987 penny, coins in ordinary circulated condition are typically worth only a few cents or a few dollars. But when collectors find a near-perfect example, the value increases dramatically. Some top-graded coins have sold for thousands of dollars at auction. This is why collectors sometimes list high-grade examples with prices starting around $1,200 or even more, depending on the condition, color, and certification of the coin. Another factor that can increase the value of a 1987 penny is its color designation. Copper coins are graded by their color because the original red shine of fresh copper slowly turns brown over time. Coins are generally classified into 3 color categories. Red coins, which still retain most of their original copper luster. Red-brown coins, which show a mixture of red and brown tones. And brown coins, which have fully toned over time. Red coins are usually the most valuable because they preserve the original mint appearance. If a 1987 penny with no mint mark still shines with bright red copper color and shows almost no marks, collectors may consider it a premium collectible. Another reason collectors search for these coins is the possibility of mint errors. Sometimes mistakes occur during the minting process. A die may be misaligned, a coin may be struck off-center, or the metal plating may develop unusual patterns. These mint errors can make a coin unique and increase its value significantly.